Hello everybody and welcome to another hobby cheating video, and today we're going to talk about snow. You can feel free to insert a Bing Crosby reference here if you like. So we're going to talk about snow and applying snow to bases. Now, I did a video on this several years back, but since then I've honestly changed up my technique a little bit, and I like some of the new things that I've discovered with snow to make it look more realistic. Because I am always trying to achieve sort of a maximum realism with snow. Snow is a very complicated thing because obviously snow isn't a uniform thing. It's not like a big rock where it's one element. It's actually composed of, thousands and thousands and thousands of tiny flakes. And so we want to make sure we're capturing both the distinction of piles of snow, but also of, blowing snow and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some snow onto this base here. Now this is going to have a creature that's poised between these two rocks. So I want to have some snow on the base, and I want to kind of catch the rocks and things like that. So first let's talk about the materials we're going to use today. Okay, so first off, we've got some standard old white glue, PVA glue. Nothing fantastic. This is just white glue. Elmer's, whatever you buy, it's fine. We've got water. Good old-fashioned tap water. If you can get the, distilled water, great. Cleaner generally helps to prevent things like yellowing in the long run, but it's not essential. Okay, and then we've got our old friend here, baking soda. And so this is not a big bag of cocaine or anything. It's just baking soda, and I keep it a little baggy. And we're going to use some of this to make it, but... And here's where we get into some of the evolution of the technique since last time. Our other elements we're going to use are going to be some good old-fashioned Woodland Scenics Snowflake, Soft Flake Snow. This is in a massive bottle. Let me move this so you can see how big this is. There you go. I've been using this for a while. This is how much is left. It doesn't look like I've used it at all. If you buy one of these, which this was $12 online, it will be good for the rest of your life. You will have all the snow you would ever want, unless you're doing massive terrain boards. Because, obviously it's made for doing, like, trains and stuff like that. Our last two elements are going to be some white paint, just dead white. Make sure it's white, colorless white. Okay? You need white. And then, last up, we've got this little... I don't know exactly what it is. I stole it from my wife, I'll be honest. But as you can see, it's like glitter... sort of gel. It comes from your stamp stores, like stamping stores. You can get it, and this is awesome for selling the effect of snow. Okay, so that's going to be our materials. So I've got a nice little cup here. As you can see, I've mixed up some snow in it previously. This is my snow cup. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with just some of the baking soda. And we're going to just try to figure out exactly how much we need here. It's always a little bit of a guess, and you kind of go back and forth, to be completely honest. Like, I'll mix some, I'll put some glue in, I mix more. Probably need a little more than that. Okay. There we go. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of our actual snow, and we're going to mix a little of that in. And the reason I like to use both of these now is because they're going to mix with the glue and water differently. The baking soda is meant to actually meld into it. This stuff doesn't. So I use about that much. Not a lot. To give you an idea on ratio, it's probably like 5 of the baking soda to 1 of the snowflake snow. And I just kind of shake it around. Good enough. Okay, now we're going to take our white glue, and we're going to just put some in there. How much? I don't know. That much? That looks about right. It's like white on white here, so it doesn't show great on camera, but that looks fair. And then we're going to take our water, and we're going to just kind of pour some water in there. Again, how much? I don't know. That much is the answer. I'm going to take my old stirring stick, and we're just going to mix it up. Now, here's when you know you've got the right amounts. I like to start with a little less water and less glue than I think I might need. Okay. And if it's still chunky like that, like you see how chunky that is? Okay, we're too chunky still. So when that happens, we say, okay, not a problem. We can either add glue or water. Both of those will break it up. So in this case, I'm just going to add a little bit more water. You want to be very careful about it because water will chew up your baking soda real fast. And it will get slurry. Look how quickly, just like that was another like 5 drops of water. Okay, and immediately now we've got a much softer set of stuff here. Good. Okay, now we're going to take just a few drops. Once we've got a mix we like, we're going to just take a few drops of white paint. Like literally 1, 2. We don't need a lot of it. We're just making sure that we've got some actual white paint in here. Again, it'll help resist yellowing, etc. Now we're going to take some of our stampy glitter stuff here. This stuff doesn't like to come out, so. And we're just going to put a little string of it down in there. Get off there. You don't want a lot of this, okay? You want a tiny, tiny touch of it. There we go. Okay. Because it is real potent. Like, this glitter stuff is very glittery. Okay, so now we just mix those in real quick. Give a nice mix. Mix, mix, mix. Lots of stirring. And we get that glitter all mixed into there. And I doubt it's going to show, but what happens then is when you move it around, you'll occasionally catch the slightest little glimmer of that glitter. And it gives that sort of, if you've ever looked at snow, as you kind of walk across it or in the sunlight, it just gives these faint little glimmers. Every so often you'll catch just a perfect snowflake where it reflects perfectly right back to your eye. Okay, cool. So now we've got something like that. Still pretty slurry, still fairly thick. In fact, I might do like 1, 2. This is a little more art than science, okay? I can't give you an exact ratio. I just kind of play with it until I feel like it's in the right place. All right, good. We want it as when we think about consistency, we want it to be a little bit chunky. Okay? Not super chunky, but a little thicker. Okay. So, now that we got that, we're going to grab a brush. I have an old, crappy, hard-bristled brush. Don't use a nice brush for this. And I'm going to get a little bit of water on the edge of that brush. I want it to be just a little wet. I'm going to get a chunk out of here. And now that we have our base, what we need to think about is, where is the wind blowing? What way is the wind coming in? In this case, on this base, I want it coming in from this direction because I think that'll lead to the most interesting thing with this rock here. And as a result, I'm going to put my snow down here. And then I'm going to drag in that direction. Okay? So the goal being that we want to build up our snow where it should build up based on the wind, and then we drag in that direction. So we just kind of drag it across, almost like you're dry brushing the ground. So where this is down here, on this side, this would be protected from the snow. So there shouldn't really be big piles of snow there. When we're placing our snow piles, we want to think about, like, okay, if the wind is coming this direction, well, then that means there should be, oops, get back on there. This is a messy process. There should be a big pile of snow right here, right? Because that's where the snow would naturally build up. And then we just use the brush to kind of flatten it out and get it along there, make it look a little more natural. Okay? And then we're just going to continue this. So let's see. Here on the edge, there would probably be some buildup. Not a huge amount, but some. And we can always, the nice part here is we can always get it, pull it back off. Maybe a little bit out there. We kind of, but we wouldn't want it here, right? Like we wouldn't want a big snow pile there because, again, if the wind's coming this direction, the rock would shield it. Now, theoretically, there might be a little that kind of gets in there. And when we have these little plants, we want to kind of push some snow down into them. When we have little tufts, you don't want to necessarily leave snow right on the top. You kind of want to take your brush and you want to just force a little bit of snow down in there. But effectively, we're almost like if you've ever seen, pay attention to bushes in the wintertime, the very tips the snow blows off. It gets down inside there, underneath. So we want to kind of just use our brush to force it down in there. Okay. And then obviously we need some here on this side where it's collected up. So we're just pushing it around. And the key is we keep kind of working in a dry brushing fashion so we work in a little dry brushing fashion here, right? To show the snow kind of pulling across things. All right. So that's probably good enough. All right. So now we've got our base snow applied. And that looks kind of nice. But we're not done yet. Because when this dries, it's going to be kind of clumpy. We want a little more there. There we go. A little more there. Okay. It's going to be kind of clumpy. And what I mean by that is... Oops, sorry. Bumped the camera. What I mean by that is it's going to dry as sort of a solid pile. And the problem is snow doesn't have that texture. So we're going to do a couple things here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our soft flake snow. We're going to crack it open. And I'm going to grab a little tool here. And I'm going to get a little spoonful out of here. And over my existing... Oh, I'm going to not dump it on my desk. Over my existing snow, I'm just going to lightly tap. And just kind of let this fall over top of here. This will kind of sit on top. It'll sink in just a little. Okay? And what it'll do is it'll give us just a little bit of more rough texture on the top of it. If you have a better tool for this, like an actual little spoon might be nice. I don't have a little spoon next to me, so we're using this thing. So over all of our snow, we just kind of give light taps. And then turn it. Give it a good shake to make sure it's off of there. That's going to roughen up the texture a little bit. But we're not done yet. Snow also on things like these rocks, if it blows, or places like this, you get blowing individual snowflakes, right? So, like, it gets kind of stuck to the side, like to the edge of these rocks, things like that. So, what are we gonna do about that? Well, we're gonna bring in our little palette here. I'm gonna take some of my glue, my white glue. I'm gonna put that down in the palette there. Now I'm gonna take some of my water. I'm going to make a little water PVA mixture. And again, we're going to grab an older, crappier brush. And we're going to just mix that up. So we get a nice glue water mixture. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and right along here on the edge. And if it runs down over like it just did there, that's fine. No big deal. Right along here on the edge there. Let's see. I want to put a little up here on the top of the rock where it's blown. A little here. Right? I'm just going to kind of... It wouldn't necessarily pile here in large amounts. Maybe a little along the edge of this rock. Maybe a little here. You can just kind of touch some areas with this. You don't need to be too crazy with it. Maybe the edge of the base here. Just find some neat areas where you think snow would kind of gather. But it would be like a light dusting. So again, on this side, I want it here where it's hit this rock and stuck to the side. Okay? Probably in that gap there. Okay. And you rinse your brush very thoroughly to make sure you get all that glue water mixture out of your brush. Now we go back to our little tool here. We're going to get out a nice spoonful of snow. And then around all those areas that we just put this mixture, we're going to just tap, tap, tap. Just tap, 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 tap. Tap, tap, tap. Light taps. We don't want a lot of it. We just want to create the impression of some blowing snow that has gotten caught against the rocks. Because obviously snowflakes are very tiny. Now, this snow is already out of scale because this is only slightly smaller than a normal snowflake. So we got to be careful with it. We don't want to go too overboard. But I've never found anything exactly small enough to truly match the scale of snow on this. It would have to be almost microscopic. So we've got to use our imaginations a little. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this up so I can get at the glue I put on the sides. And tap, tap, tap. Okay. Make sure I got everything that I like. All right. So now what we've got is some nice snow that's spread out over the side. Okay. I still left, there's nothing here on the sides, so I can still grab it. And we just tap, 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 tap. Once this is all dry, you're going to go back in with a salt. Like, I'm not going to do this on camera, but here, like on this water effect, once everything's dry, you take a nice soft bristled brush and you just wipe. And obviously, if there's snow that's gotten stuck, don't wipe over your actual snow where you will scrape some off, even once it's dry. You just want to, on areas where there's not supposed to be snow at all, you go like that. Okay, so looking at this now, it looks like there's a tiny area where I didn't kind of notice and I still want some more snow. So I'm going to put a little down in there because I do want a little, and this will let me show off something else. So let's put a little down in here where it's kind of gotten trapped there. Okay. And then we're going to, actually, we'll wait on that. Let's do a little, let's put a little more glue mixture down there. There we go. Then we'll do a little tappy tap down here, and that's going to be the final thing I'm going to show you today, which is to capture a little bit of melting snow. So, if you've ever looked at snow on the side of a riverbed or anything, you have, it tends to, so what we get now is something that looks like that. Snow, as it gets near like running water sources and things like that, tends to melt a little. Okay? So when we want to capture the edge of melting snow, like where it's hit something warmer, a different temperature, somewhere where it would have melted a little, that's where we go to our old friend gloss varnish. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put some gloss varnish out on my palette. Okay? And I'm going to do this in 2 steps. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take, again, an older brush because I don't want to use anything nice. I'm going to take a little of that gloss varnish. And here at the edge of the snow line, I'm just going to push, I'm going to kind of touch the snow a little bit here and there. Okay? And the reason I'm touching the snow a little bit is because I want it to look like the snow is glistening here on the edge. But I'm really focusing on the edge of the mud, where I want it to look like it's soaked in, it's made the mud nice and wet. You know, that snow has seeped down in the ground and it's turned back into water. Because that's what snow does. So we just kind of spread that around right along the edge here. And what that'll give us when that dries is a sort of glistening effect right there at the edge. Okay? Now, if you want to take that a little farther, we can go to some of our snow, and we can just kind of, again, very light touch, and the varnish will actually hold it into place when it dries. So I can mix in, since I've got extra overspill here, and you probably will on your desk too, I can just kind of mix in some more little pieces here and there, and then we're good. Now, if I wanted more snow up here on the tops of these pillars, as I probably will, because like looking at this, I've got this wonderful seam line from this great old kit up here, which I always hate. So, you know, I hate that. You can always go in afterward and we can get at, you know, we can take some snow and we can, with a very careful brush, we can get up here and place it a little more carefully around. All right, if we want to try to disguise some of that, we can always use, snow is great because it can cover modeling mistakes. It's pretty fun. Sometimes when I've messed up, I'll be like, ah, that's okay. It's going to have snow on it. And then if we do that, you know, obviously we want to do the same thing. We want to kind of spread it out. We don't want it to be clumpy. And then we'll grab a little bit more of our snow and just kind of get it on there. And there you go. And now you can see where that's drying. We get this wonderful effect of snow stuck up the side of the wall, which if you've ever seen, you know, like blowing snow in a windstorm, I think that's a pretty good capture of that. We have a nice mix of texture. If you turn it, I don't think it's going to show on camera, but I can see it in reality. Every so often we'll catch a hint of that glitter, which is wonderful. And then we just let that dry. And I think what we get is a very nice, natural snow scene that looks like, you know, it looks organic. It looks like how the snow would blow and get captured. So, like, when I look at it this way, it looks like a very snowy scene. When I spin it around here, much less so, because I can see where the area is where the snow hasn't built up. So there you go. That's sort of all the different ways that I found to do some fun techniques with snow since I made the original video. I hope you enjoy this. Obviously, you don't have to do every one of these techniques when you're doing snow. You can sort of mix and match some of these as you like. I've done where I've put, and there's been times where I've done like campfires next to snow and stuff in models. And so I had more gloss because I had more melting snow spread around and stuff like that. You kind of create more of a sloosh of the gloss varnish and a little bit of your snow mixture there. You can create like a little slush, nice little slush mixture. So if you want kind of a slushy roadside street, you can mix those up. So there's lots of different options. Play around with it. The key, again, is your base mixture is just white glue, water, and baking soda. And then from there, we use a little bit of like something like the Woodland Scenic Snow here to kind of add that slightly rough texture. Little extra sauce tricks. Keep some white glue in there just to keep it nice and, or sorry, white paint in there just to keep it nice and gleaming. And if you want to go all the way, hit your local stamping store and pick up some of like little glitter paste like this. You can mix some of that in, and it'll give your snow that little hint, that gleam that will occasionally catch the eye. So there you go. That's doing snow on bases. I hope you enjoyed that. Give it a like if you did. Share it with anybody if you know they're doing a winter-themed army. Maybe this will help them out. Subscribe for more hobby cheating in the future. And as always, I very much appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.